For a while now, there have been two videos that I've wanted to make. One having to do with some hints and tips to help you pass the written firearm safety exam, and the other is for the practical firearm safety exam. I wrote down just a one-pager here, and it's all big type, so it's not too much, but it's a couple of things that'll help you allay some fears and help you get some success in the exam. The exam is 50 questions, and you're going to be looking for an 80% pass mark or better. We have a very high success rate on these exams. The course that we teach and the exam are very closely tied together. If we're not explaining it, it's not on the test. If it's on the test, we cover it, usually. The test is multiple choice. The way that I usually run through tests when I write tests is I'll go through the test first, read each question, and I'll put the multiple choice tests have circles that you can black in. I'll put a little dot in the circle that I think is the right answer, and I'll get through the entire exam. Then I'll go through the test again, rereading each question and figuring out what the answer is. And if that answer matches what I had the first time, then I blacken in that circle. If it doesn't, then I have to figure out which answer is the correct answer. But this way I'm able to independently read each question twice, and not once and then once again, and make sure that I get the right answers, or at least the best answers that I can come up with. A couple of things that people get wrong on the tests. You'll get a couple of questions that might have some tricky wording to them. So you have to read each word very carefully and make sure that you don't read anything into the question. Sometimes the question will appear a little bit incomplete, and the student will put their hand up. I'll come over and say, what's up? And they'll say, yeah, but what about... No. Just what's on the paper. And you have to read everything. For example, you might get a question like, always keep the safety off until you're ready to fire, true or false? And you'll say, well, I always keep the safety on until I'm ready to fire, so that must be true. No, that's not what they said. Always keep the safety off until you're ready to fire, true or false? Going to be false. So you have to watch out for that kind of thing. There's a couple sections that you should know. Obviously, you need to know all of the material, but put some extra effort in when you're studying the night before the test. Depending on how the course is laid out, sometimes you don't even get a night before the test. Sometimes you're covering material and 15 minutes later you're writing the exam on it, but you do what you can. Review the types of safeties that you're likely to find on the firearms. Review how calibers are gauged and measured, or how calibers are measured, and how shotgun gauges are measured. They're measured differently. Remember, your shotgun, your 12 gauge is a bigger caliber than a 20 gauge, so you have to watch out for that kind of thing. Don't be distracted by provincial laws. I'm in New Brunswick, and the laws for transportation of a non-restricted firearm, for example, are very different from the federal side to the provincial side. And even though you could be following the law to the letter on the federal side, you're still going to get dinged on the provincial side if a conservation officer pulls you over, for example. Review muzzle loading. Even if you don't think you're ever going to buy one, there are questions that get asked on the test that you have to know the answers to. Different types of powders, the differences between modern powder and muzzle loading powder, that kind of thing. Know your display, transport, and storage regulations. Those are important. Know your bullet types. If you take a look at the diagrams in the book, when they talk about jacketed bullets, they're going to show you a picture that has two thin lines. One, the outside one representing the jacket and the inside one representing the lead. It's kind of a cross section. Where if they're showing you a picture of a lead bullet, it's going to be just one line. When you go to do your test, the tests are reproduced. They're not copies of copies of copies, but they might not be super clear. So you have to look at the picture of the bullet if they give you one and see, do you see one line going around or do you see two lines going around? That's going to be a big difference. And I do get questions about that. And I do see some tests that are wrong, some answers that are wrong because they chose one versus the other, or they didn't see a second line, or they thought they saw a second line. Otherwise, sometimes they look very similar. Know what trajectory is and what affects it. There's a page in your book on that one. And always watch out for words like always and never. Remember, if someone says a firearm will never have a safety on the left side, well, the minute somebody actually creates one that has one on the left side, that's no longer a true statement. So whenever you see always and never on the tests, make sure you read them very carefully. Other than that, the test is really not that bad. If you have any questions during the test, put your hand up. An instructor will come over. He can't give you the answer to what you're asking, but he can help rephrase it or help make sure that you're understanding the question so that if the answer's in your head, he's going to get that out. And one of my favorite instructors here in New Brunswick has gotten into the habit of giving the answer to one of the questions on the exam because it is a little bit ambiguous. So I'm going to give that answer here as well. It's B.